Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to be providing an update to the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So every week, we provide an update to the bull market support band. We just want to talk about where it is. Are we above it? Are we below it? Are we holding it support? Are we holding it as support? Are we not? Clearly, we are in a phase right now where we remain below the bull market support band. So until we get above it, it still remains a resistance band that we need to get back above. The 20-week SMA is now coming in at around 50.7K, and the 21-week EMA is at around 46.3K. Of course, this will vary by $100 or $200 or so, depending on the exchange you use, but it more or less runs now from around 46K up to around 51K. Now, if we look to see what happened last week with our approach to the bull market support band, you can see that we got somewhat close to it. Last week, the 21-week EMA was around 46.5 or so, and we had a wick that took us up to approximately 45.9K. So we got relatively close to it, but we have not broken through it yet. So the point is when we go below the bull market support band, it usually takes a while before we actually have a realistic shot at getting back above it. Oftentimes, what we've seen is that you'll at least see an attempt within a few months. Okay, 3 to 6 months, you'll at least see an attempt to break above it and to see if we can hold it as support. If we continue to compare what happened back in the summer, I'll remind you that it took actually 13 weeks before getting a weekly close below the 20-week moving average to getting a weekly close back above the 20-week moving average. It took about 13 weeks. And interestingly, if you draw a line from the close, so then when we opened above it, what's interesting is the close, actually that's below, that's the 21-week EMA. If you look at where we closed over here, you can see that it took about that 13th week, we had a wick back up to the same level that we fell below the 20-week moving average about 3 months before. All right, so again, this one took about 13 weeks. Clearly, we do not expect things to play out in the exact same way. But if we did take a measured move from when we broke below, we are now in our 11th week. We're looking at 11 weeks so far. So this most recent candle is red. Okay, so we ended up closing below where we opened, but we are still relatively close to that bull market support band. So the point is we want to see if we can actually get a sustained approach to it and then get above it and hold it as support. If we get rejected by it, then what's going to happen, of course, is the 20-week SMA will just come down as well as the 21-week EMA, and then we'll try again later, and then eventually we'll get back above it, and then eventually we'll hold it as support, and eventually we will go higher. If we briefly check in to the Heikin-Ashi candles, which don't care so much about just about what is the close doing with respect to the open. If we flip it over to the Heikin-Ashi candles, you can see that, okay, we had a green candle here, a green with no undershadow. We don't have an undershadow yet. That doesn't mean we're not going to have one this week, but we certainly do not have one yet. And so while the bears have shown up on the daily time frame, they certainly have shown up. You can see this here on the daily time frame. They have not yet taken back the momentum on the weekly time frame. Or even if you go say look at the 5-day time frame, you can still that the bulls are still doing okay. All right, we haven't seen a momentum shift yet on some of the longer term time frames beyond a day or so. Now, another thing I thought was interesting, and again, I get that the fractals don't really play out the same way, but I feel like at the same time I would be doing a disservice if we didn't at least talk about them. So going back to this sort of correction over here, one of the things we saw was if we sort of overlay it, there are some similarities. Again, they don't have to play out the exact same way, but certainly seeing those sort of 3 little peaks there on those green candles, same thing over here. A larger move back over here in the summer, the same thing back over here, and then a final capitulation down into whatever the local low was going to be. And then what's interesting is after all that, both of these moves had a fairly impulsive move to the upside, but then they had about 4 days or so where things bled back down. If I switch this back over to regular candles and we just go look at what happened, after this nice impulsive move to the upside, we had 4 red days in a row, and then we actually continued on. And again, I don't have a crystal ball or anything like that, but we had a nice, fairly explosive move to the upside. We just had 4 red days. So now we're going to see, okay, what's going to happen now, right? What's going to happen? Are we actually going to get another test to get back above the bull market support band, or will it just sort of fall without actually showing that much of an attempt to get back above it? So we'll need to see what happens this week. Obviously, the Fed, they're having their meeting, their closed meeting. We'll see what they say later today. There's certainly a lot of uncertainty when thinking about the macro environment. And then furthermore, we also want to make sure we tune into the stock market. Let's see what the S&P is doing, the NASDAQ is doing. Are they putting in a lower low, or are they putting in a higher low? And what we see there is probably going to, at least to some degree, dictate what we see transpire in the crypto markets. So, right now, Bitcoin is trading for just below $43,000. I do imagine there's a lot of new eyes on the space after all the commercials yesterday. So do try to welcome these new people, but also make sure they understand the risks involved. We don't want people to come in and make the same mistakes a lot of us have made over the years. So let's try to make sure they understand the risks involved, to focus on the projects that are really worth focusing on, and not get sucked in to the micro cap memes that really don't deserve much attention. Okay, so again, if you're curious, the 20-week SMA now is all the way up at around 51K, just below 51K. The 21-week EMA is at 46.3K. And you can see they are still in a downtrend. Very, very slightly, the 20-week SMA is in fact in a downtrend. And if we try to figure out, is it going to remain in a downtrend for a while, if we look back 20 weeks, you can see that we're going to start replacing values up here with values over here. So then unless we see a nice explosive move back up in the short term, we would expect the 20-week SMA to continue moving lower until hopefully we get to the point where we can actually get back above it and the bulls can regain control. So this is your update to the bull market support band. Hopefully you enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. We also do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. So please check that out if you guys want access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, and more. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.